Something unique is unfolding on the PGA Tour right now. It feels distinctly different from an ordinary stretch of the season. It's difficult to pinpoint exactly what it is, but if you've been following closely week after week, you can sense it building. There is a special energy surrounding the tour these days that goes far beyond who is leading the leaderboard or trending on social media. It runs much deeper than that. It's the kind of feeling you get when real stories are unfolding in real time, and you're watching them develop right before your eyes without knowing how they will end. Two entirely separate situations are playing out at the same time, and together they reveal more about professional golf in 2026 than any statistics or power rankings ever could. One story is dramatic and almost cinematic in how it has unfolded. The other is quieter and more personal, the kind of struggle that rarely makes the front page, yet deeply resonates with anyone who has ever competed seriously and felt the results refuse to match their effort. And as we head into Augusta National with the Masters just around the corner, both of these stories are reaching a critical crossroads at exactly the same moment. Start with Tiger Woods because, honestly, where else would you begin when discussing the PGA Tour? The man has been the heartbeat of this sport for nearly 3 decades. And somehow, even now, even in his most difficult moments, he still finds himself at the center of the conversation. On March 27th, his vehicle was involved in a serious rollover crash in Jupiter Island, Florida. This was no minor fender bender or exaggerated close call. The car ended up on its side. First responders rushed to the scene. The situation was genuinely tense and frightening by any standard. Yet in the middle of that chaos, while things were still being sorted out and the dust had barely settled, someone asked if he planned to play in the Masters. Tiger Woods, being exactly who he has always been, replied that he was hoping to play and that it would depend on the people around him helping him get there. Think about that for a second. Most people in that situation, most normal human beings dealing with the aftermath of a rollover accident, would not have golf anywhere near the front of their mind. Tiger was already mentally mapping his path back to Augusta. That single response in the middle of chaos tells you more about his competitive DNA than any press conference or documentary ever could. It is not something he performs for the cameras. It is genuinely who he is at his core. And it is exactly why, even after everything, people around the world still refuse to count him out. But the story goes beyond just the accident and that remarkable answer. Tiger entered a not guilty plea to charges of DUI with property damage and refusal to submit to a sobriety test. He hired prominent attorney Douglas Duncan and formally requested a jury trial. A pre-trial hearing is scheduled for May 5th in Martin County, Florida, meaning this legal situation will be hanging over everything as the Masters approaches. When you step back and see the full picture, this is the second rollover crash Tiger has been involved in since 2021 and the second driving-related arrest since 2017. These are not details you can simply brush aside or minimize. They are part of a larger, more complicated story about a man who is one of the greatest athletes this sport has ever seen, yet who is clearly navigating some very difficult personal challenges that extend far beyond the golf course. As fans and as people who care about the sport, it places you in an uncomfortable but honest position. You want to celebrate everything he has meant to golf. You want to root for the comeback. But you also cannot look away from the full picture and pretend it isn't there. What gave the entire situation a strangely emotional and deeply human touch was what happened with his golf clubs after the crash. His clubs were in the back of the vehicle when it rolled over. During the recovery process, he specifically asked that his putter be retrieved. When he mentioned it, he simply said he had won 14 majors with that putter. 14. His manager picked it up and called it a piece of history. That quiet, almost offhand moment in the middle of a genuinely serious situation captured something about Tiger that is almost impossible to fully put into words. Even when life is falling apart around him, even when the circumstances are as far from a golf course as possible, the game is still right there with him. It is not separate from who he is. It is woven into the very fabric of his identity in a way very few athletes in any sport have ever experienced with their craft. Just 3 days before the accident, after playing his first TGL match of the season, he had spoken openly about how much he loves the Masters and how badly he wanted to play while continuing to work to get himself ready. The clubs sitting in the back of that car were no random coincidence. They were a reflection of a man who never truly steps away, even when maybe he should take a moment to just step back. Now, shift the focus completely, because the other story unfolding on the PGA Tour right now could not feel more different on the surface, yet it carries just as much weight when you truly sit with it. Brian Harman is the 2023 Open Championship winner. He stood on the 18th green at Royal Liverpool Hoylake and lifted the claret jug after one of the most dominant major performances in recent memory. He is a proven champion who has shown beyond doubt that he can compete and win when the stakes are at their highest. However, the 2026 season has been a frustrating and at times genuinely difficult stretch for him. 2 missed cuts to start the year, a tie for 61st in another event. Only 3 finishes inside the top 53 across 7 starts. On paper, those are not the numbers of a major champion finding his rhythm. They are the numbers of a player searching for answers. What makes Harman's situation particularly interesting and honestly more relatable than most player struggles is what he has said about it. He is not blaming equipment, making excuses about course conditions, or pointing to some mechanical flaw in his swing. He says his game actually feels good. He has described standing on the course feeling like he was playing well, hitting the shots he wanted to hit, and yet somehow still walking off with scores that didn't reflect any of that. He described it as feeling like he was shooting the highest number he possibly could each day. When things went well, he couldn't sustain the momentum. When things went sideways, he didn't have an answer to pull himself back. If you have ever competed seriously in golf or any other pursuit, you know exactly how demoralizing that feeling is. You put in the work, you believe in what you're doing. You step onto the course with real confidence. Yet the scoreboard keeps telling you something different, day after day, week after week. It wears on you in ways that are hard to explain to those who haven't experienced it. The potential turning point came at the Players' Championship at TPC Sawgrass. The Players is one of the toughest events on the tour, a course and atmosphere that punish loose play or a distracted mind. Harman had a tough first round and admitted he was quite down afterward. But on Friday, he fired a 64, one of the best rounds of the week. He finished the tournament tied for 11th. It wasn't a Sunday contention spot, but it finally felt like a result that matched the level he had actually been playing at all season. He said afterward that it felt like he had turned a corner, like something had clicked, and he was regaining control over both his game and his results. He also mentioned a specific aggressive decision on the 16th hole, choosing to go for it rather than play safe. He knew the risk involved, and laying up would likely have meant a safer leaderboard position. But he said that's not why they are out there. That mindset, the willingness to take risks in pursuit of something greater than just a safe result, is exactly what won him a major. Hearing that mindset return in his words was genuinely encouraging. From Sawgrass, he heads straight to the Valero Texas Open, his final competitive event before the Masters. It's also a tournament where he has excellent history, having won there last year. That combination of familiarity and recent success creates a special kind of energy. There is pressure that comes with being the defending champion, of course, but there is also a level of comfort and confidence that cannot be manufactured. He knows how to win there. He knows what the course demands. And if the corner he turned at Sawgrass is real, and not just one good week in an otherwise inconsistent season, this is exactly the kind of setup that could lead to something special heading into Augusta. There's also a broader conversation worth having about where Harman is in his career and what is realistic for players at this stage. He is nearing 40. For a long time in professional golf, there was an assumption that a player's best years were clearly behind him by that age, but recent seasons have completely challenged that idea. Justin Rose has been winning and contending at the highest level deep into his 40s. Gary Woodland won a major and continued competing seriously in his mid-40s. The notion that golfers peak early and then fade is no longer the simple truth it once appeared to be. The physical demands of the game, combined with the course management, patience, and mental discipline that only experience brings, means some players are reaching their peak later than anyone expected. So when people look at Harman and wonder if his best days are behind him, the honest answer is that nobody really knows. And recent history suggests the question itself may be built on a false assumption. When you hold both of these stories side by side, they reflect something honest and layered about where the PGA Tour stands as it heads into the year's first major. Tiger Woods is fighting just to reach the starting line. He is carrying the weight of a serious legal situation, the physical aftermath of a frightening accident, and a body that has endured more surgeries, recoveries, and setbacks than almost any athlete in the history of the sport. And yet, the conversation he still generates and the questions about whether he might appear at Augusta tell you everything about what he means to this sport and its fans. Brian Harman, meanwhile, is already at the starting line. His body is healthy. His game is in a genuinely solid place. He has the experience of winning a major and understanding what that stage demands. And he is still fighting, still searching, still trying to turn good play into results that show where it matters most. One player is battling just to earn the right to compete. The other is battling to make the most of the opportunity he already has. Both fights are difficult. Both are completely real. And both remind us that talent, pedigree, and past success guarantee nothing in this sport on any given week. What makes this moment feel truly significant as the Masters approaches is that Augusta National has always had a way of cutting through everything else and demanding something specific. It doesn't reward momentum for its own sake. It doesn't care about your last 3 weeks or what you said in a press conference. It rewards preparation, precision, composure under pressure, and the ability to hold yourself together mentally and emotionally when everything feels like it's closing in at once. For Tiger, the question is simply whether he can get there and what happens if he does. For Harman, the question is whether the corner he turned at Sawgrass is the start of something lasting or just one encouraging week in a difficult stretch. Neither answer is clear right now, and that uncertainty is exactly what makes both stories worth following so closely. The best version of professional golf, the version that keeps you watching late on Sunday afternoons and checking your phone first thing Monday morning, is not the one where everything goes according to script. It is the one where it doesn't, where the unexpected happens, where players discover something inside themselves that nobody saw coming, and where the sport reminds you why you fell in love with it in the first place. Right now, in the weeks leading up to the Masters, that is exactly the kind of season this is becoming.